Welcome to the StoneLine Climbing Podcast, where we dig into the subtle aspects of bouldering that rarely get covered. The tactics, psychology and approach to climbing that can make the real difference. If the topics in this podcast are interesting to you, check out our weekly Stone Skills Climbing blog, as well as our first online course, Mastering Stone, which delves even further into the bouldering toolkit to give you the skills to improve your own bouldering. Visit stonelineclimbing.com. In this episode, we're with David Mason. Dave is one of the most accomplished and well-travelled boulderers in the UK, having climbed over 50 8B and above boulders, as well as hundreds 8A and above. Dave's climbed 8A in almost any world-class destination you could possibly name. He's also a high-level climbing coach and has worked with some of the best climbers in the UK. Dave's dropped a load of knowledge in this one and has an approach that I think we can all learn a lot from. So I hope you enjoy this one.
Thanks, Dave, for agreeing to have a sit down and have a chin wag. I guess first it'd be good just for anyone who's watching just to know a little bit about you, how you kind of got into climbing and what sort of, how climbing's kind of sits in your life really.
Cool, yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry, I feel a bit squinty. I should have worn sunglasses.
Yeah, it's not even sunny though, is it? Yeah.
It's quite bright.
It's just a bit outside.
I got into climbing mainly when I was at university. I did a little bit when I was at school. Our graphics teacher, Mr. Parks, is a bit of like a peak legend to like on kind of trad. So we used to go on a Wednesday afternoon, and he got me into it a little bit. And then I kind of stopped a bit, and then when I went back to uni in Leeds, that's where one of the first indoor bouldering walls in the country was, in the sports science department, right, which is what I did. So I kind of got into it, and then started climbing at Leeds, going to the Leeds wall. Ben Meeks was kind of setting there, and I climbed with him, a guy called Dan Warren, and also met Tom Peckett, and I climbed with Tom a lot, especially outdoors. He had a car, right, and was psyched to go outside, so we climbed a lot.
Was that like a mixture of grit and lime at that point, or mostly grit stuff?
No lime.
No lime.
I mean, Tom doesn't like limestone. Mm-hmm. No, we'd go to
likes crimping though.
Yeah, he likes crimping, but he likes crimping gritstone slopes. Yeah. So we'd go out and the grit. First year I climbed pretty much solely indoors. Then the second year I almost only climbed outdoors with Tom, and then the third year I started to get a bit of a balance of climbing indoors and outdoors, and starting to potter with doing some like fingerboarding and a little bit of training. And then I went to finish uni, and I was just psyched on climbing, so I did like a 3-week trip to Magic Wood, and then I went to the States for 3 months, although that got cut short because I dislocated my shoulder, so I actually only went to Waco for 3 weeks and then had to fly home.
So that was all you did? You went 3 weeks?
I went for 3 weeks, had a 3-month trip. We were going to go Bishop, we were going to go Waco, Bishop, Yosemite, and I had 3 weeks in Waco and had to fly home. And then, since then I've kind of started off instructing.
For like an outdoor centre? Or
no, just instructing at the Climbing Works.
Okay.
Michelle, who was the instructor kind of manager there, gave me a job, and I instructed there, and then I guess that slowly turned into kind of coaching and things. I was on the GB team, and then after I finished competing I kind of managed the GB team a bit with Gaz Parry at first, and then did it with Mark Glennie. Right. And then just travelled for climbing. My wife Mina, she was kind of climbing full time after university, so we'd travel a lot. Been to most big areas, and I've managed to kind of forge my coaching into. I do have contact time with people, but I kind of see them once every few months, and then I set their training and keep in touch with them and make tweaks along the way and stuff, so it allows me to be away at periods of time. And that was we did that probably our first proper trip away was 2012. We went to the States for 3 months. We bought a van, and then I'd say my last proper trip away was 2019, where I was in Red Rocks.
Right.
And then
that was your last time going anywhere, not in the van?
Yeah, not in the van and anywhere. Yeah, on a plane and anywhere further than Font.
Yeah.
And then we had COVID, obviously, and I was like, right, because in 2019 I went to Australia and New Zealand, then I went to the US. So I was like, I've done some big flights. So I was like, right, 2020, I'm not going to fly. I just have a year of no flying. And then obviously COVID happened, so it was really easy. And then I've kind of not flown since then, and we've ended up having 2 children. Isaac was born in 2021, Lily 2024, and we've just travelled a lot in the van in the UK, and then Font. So Isaac's 4, and he's been to Font 7 times already. I reckon he spent 6 months at least of his life in Font already.
Wow. It's practically a blowzard already.
Yeah, so that's cool. And it works really well with the kids and things.
Yeah.
And I guess climbing slightly changed. We went from those kind of 7 years of us, Mina and I, travelling a lot together.
Yeah.
We also travelled independently a lot when she was a bit more into sport climbing.
Because that's what I'm a little bit interested in, is like how you've transitioned now from that. Because I guess for people who don't know, there's maybe very few, maybe with the exception of like Japan, there's probably not a world-class climbing destination that you haven't been to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I don't know if I would say Japan looks like it's world class.
Okay.
That might be throwing it. I haven't been to Japan.
Yeah.
I'd love to go.
Yeah.
In the States, I never went to Leavenworth and Index.
Right.
I would love to go there at some point. Whether we'll ever go, I don't know.
So how did you find that transition then to? I guess, like you said, COVID was probably made it a bit easier.
Yeah, I guess COVID probably did make it a bit easier. It just happened fairly naturally. I mean, for me, I'm really lucky to have travelled to all these places, but for me, Font is still better than all of them.
Okay.
So
really?
I can go. Yeah, for me personally, I can go to Font, in the van, or it's very easy to get to from where we are. So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I also love the UK. I love the variety we have in the UK. I haven't done as much day tripping probably even since COVID, but definitely since the children have been born. I've done a lot more around the peak. But I think, from Sheffield, you can get within 3 hours, you can get to Northumberland, the Lake District, North Wales, you've got anything in Yorkshire. Yep. So there's so much climbing to do. And if you have the right days off, I think it's brilliant. So it's actually just been totally fine.
Did you ever feel this thing of, because I've had it times where you go on a trip somewhere and then you come back, I guess you haven't had it because you live in the peak, but where you come back and you're like, oh god, I'm having to get motivated or try and be psyched for stuff that you've got locally when you've just come back from somewhere really like world class. Like, do you get that now coming back from Font, because you've done a lot of stuff in the peak? And
yeah, I have done a lot, and I guess you do get a bit of scratchings, but no, I mean, I've just had my best year on Gritstone ever. Best winter anyway on Gritstone this last season.
And the limestone and stuff as well.
And the limestone has been really good as well. And I guess my big thing is that probably in that period of time when we were travelling more, I projected very little. So I was doing things, I don't know how many sessions, let's say up to 5, 8, definitely below 10. So I barely, up until 2019, I think I'd probably done one problem that took me longer than 10 sessions. Other than that,
trip? Or total?
No,
just
total,
wow.
even in the peak,
wow.
Even at home. So on a trip, it would be way lower.
Like
so I was
3, 4?
No, maybe I think King of Limbs took me 8.
Okay,
but
was that spread over trips?
That was spread over 2 trips. Yeah. Other than that, probably everything was much less than that, 3 or 4, yeah. Because
something I was really curious about then is knowing, like places like, I mean, you've done Amagama. Like, I wrote a list of the world-class kind of 8B stuff that you've done. Sky, Hourglass, Amagama, Trifecta, and I've not even thought of like ones in the States and stuff as well. You've done Black Lung as well and stuff like that.
No, I never did Black Lung.
Right, okay.
Actually, I probably had quite a lot of sessions on Black Lung, but didn't do it.
Right. How did you, I guess, approach climbing trips generally to like new areas where you maybe hadn't been before, and then kind of following on from that, how did you approach doing the stuff like those boulders that you probably really wanted to do, that maybe in terms of your grade level at that point was near enough the top of your sort of pyramid?
Yeah, it's hard though. I think it's near enough the top of my pyramid, but my pyramid isn't as high as it should be probably.
Yeah.
Because I don't project, or hadn't projected that much in that period of travelling a lot. I think I was just always operating below my level.
Yeah.
And for me, it's interesting because I was chatting to a friend about this the other day, and when we used to live together, after I was in uni, he was still in uni in Sheffield, and we always wanted to go out. We always wanted to be able to go to any climbing area and climb 8A in as many different styles, on as many different rock types as we could, or whatever, or do the best problems in that area. So if the best problem was a 7C, we wanted to be able to do it. If it was an 8A, we wanted to be able to do it. I guess even if it was an 8B, we wanted to be able to do it. And we didn't push much past that, or I definitely wasn't. That wasn't in my mindset. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. And so I think we'd go away on trips, and I basically just climbed a lot. I'd just try and climb as much as I could, whether it was, doing like going to Joe's Valley and trying to do as many V10s as I could, because that's the best grade.
Where
in
would
Joe's
you,
Valley.
so I guess would you start at maybe a different grade in different areas?
Yeah. I mean, probably I still would try and climb as much as I could on.
Like, were you climbing 7A or you generally? Yeah.
No, I would do 7As. I maybe wouldn't do like
all of
as
them.
many, and I would pick. They'd be cherry picked like that. I really thought they were the best, whether it was they were a nice height, or they were really classic, or they had a really cool move on them or something. And then obviously I would then say probably like 7C and above was what I really wanted to do. And then anything below that, it had to be really quite cool from a certain. It could be a multiple reasons that it's cool, but it had to be quite cool. And I think in certain areas things lend themselves. So like I said, in Joe's Valley, like really V10 is the best grade there. So for me, I just wanted to be able to do all the V10s. And I did do a bunch of 8As, and I did do a bunch of 7B to 7Cs as well. But V10 was the thing I wanted to do. And then there'd be other trips, like, I'd have a tick list and that I wanted to do of things. Australia, when I went to Australia in 2016 with Mina, I wanted to do Amagama, I wanted to do On the Beach, and I wanted to do cherry picking. I wanted to do Mana. I didn't do Mana that trip.
But you did the other three?
Did the other three, and I did Mana in 2019.
And had you been before that trip in 16?
No.
So what was the approach to trying those three then?
Just go and get on them, and
you just went on and tried
until
them
I do them.
Right, really?
Amagama didn't take me that long.
What's not that long?
Maybe 2 sessions, 2 or 3, definitely no longer than that. And probably nothing else took me. Cherry picking took me 2 sessions. Had a session on my own, which was quite scary, but still got up to the last move, and then I went back. I mean, I think on cherry picking, actually, I got up to the last move within a few goes, and then it took me maybe another 15 goes to get the last move from the bottom. So basically, I guess none of them were that hard for my level.
Yeah, you were just picking stuff that was the level that you could do in a session or two.
I wasn't even necessarily picking it because of that. I was picking it because they were the boulders.
They were the ones that you wanted to do. Yeah,
like, and they were the things I wanted to do because they were the things I thought looked the coolest. Like for me, I'm sure obviously there are loads of amazing 8B pluses and there are loads of amazing 8Cs, whatever. But for me, up to 8B is mostly the very best stuff.
So, I wonder. It's like almost like you wonder if subconsciously you were saying, "Well, I know I can climb 8B, so I'm gonna." Because I was thinking then when you were saying, I was picking the stuff that I really, really wanted to do. There are, like you just said, world class 8B plus and 8Cs in places. So I guess maybe there's an element of that sometimes we naturally pick stuff that is in a level that we feel is achievable.
Yeah, I think so.
And I guess sometimes, so maybe, like, because I think sometimes I've maybe bitten off more than I can chew with stuff on trips, where the thing that I've wanted to do was probably just a bit too hard for the time in which I had. And maybe in some of those situations I'd have been better off picking something, just coming down a little bit and saying, okay, I want to do, something that I think I could do in 2 to 3 sessions, and not something that might take me 10 and end up not doing it.
But that depends what you want from the thing, and that's something that's changed massively from me. I would say from 2012 to 2019, and probably even a bit past 2019. I wanted to go out. I wanted to. If I didn't come back with a tick, I felt disappointed with the day, even if it was just a 7C tick. Now, to me, that's now looking back on it, it's totally ridiculous. Like, why would me climbing a 7C make a day better than me trying an 8B plus and not doing it. Like, it makes no sense. It's totally stupid.
But that's a pretty
how I
common
thought.
mindset, though,
It's a
isn't
really
it?
common mindset, and it's a totally ridiculous mindset, but it's exactly how I thought at the time. And I guess that's why I've done so much. I mean, like, I think I've, up to 8A plus, I've done like over 600 boulders. 8A plus,
Or like
up to
50
8A
plus 8Bs or something.
and then maybe
Yeah.
I don't know how many 8Bs, but then I've done like 2 or 3 8B pluses, and 2 of them have been in the
This
last
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 of them have been
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
And so, and one of them gets, and even those 8B pluses, one of them is Bewilderness that I did in 2016 after coming back. I did that in 3 sessions. And the other one is the thing that took me the longest, which is the sit start to Sean's roof.
Yeah.
That took me a long time. I think that was the fitness element more than anything.
Just quickly then, what do you put, having done these 2 things that are 8B plus, these hard things down this year, what do you put that down to?
I've tried them.
Really? Simple as that. You just...
It's basically, I've tried them because I haven't got very much to do in the peak anymore, and I haven't even got very much in the. I know it sounds a bit silly, but I haven't even got that much in the UK where I can just like. I'm not psyched anymore to drive for 3 hours to try a 7C and do it first go and then be like, I'll drive home for 3 hours. I used to do that kind of thing. I would do that.
Yeah.
I don't have time now, being like having a family. My work isn't that much busier than it was then. Just having a family is, and my priorities have changed. And so, I've done harder things this year because I've tried them, and I've put a bit more effort in. And because my mindset has changed, I don't mind not doing something anymore. And actually, what I want to do is go out and try hard, and learn and get shut down a bit and learn
a bit,
from
but not
that.
too much.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
And there's a balance, isn't there?
Yeah.
And learn from that, and then eventually, over a certain time period, you get to an end point, and it might mean you've done it, and that's great, and it might mean you haven't done it, and you have to get better at things. And
do you think the like those 2 sort of fairly distinctly different mindsets of going out and wanting to do a boulder every time you go out versus going out, trying something that's hard for you and accepting that you're not do it? Do you think? I mean, I think I know what you're going to say, but do you think if you were to decide which of those 2 to go with first, it makes more sense to do what you've done and build that base effectively and spend years climbing boulders below your limit, and then get into a point where now you've got all the experience and the
I don't think it makes
behind
sense
you.
what I've done though, because I've missed my physical
You've missed
peak.
that's I guess
So
the other side.
I
of
think
that
there's a
coin, isn't it?
balance. Like, if you'd been climbing from younger age, then you probably have done a lot of mileage. You can climb really well, and then when you get to your physical peak, it would make sense to switch
Put
to
it
that.
down.
Because I started a little bit later, I guess I needed to accrue lots of movement and stuff. But I mostly did it because I was weak mentally. I had an ego.
Right.
I mean, we all have an ego. I still do have an ego. I found it harder to control my ego. I would get angry and frustrated, and so for me it's much easier to go out and do something
That you think you can do.
that I think I can do rather than challenge myself. And so that's changed, but that's changed now. So my mentally I'm much stronger now, and therefore I can do it. And it actually works really well with being a dad or being busier, even if you're not a dad, just being busier. As you get older, you have more responsibilities, and actually projecting works very well with that, I think.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, it works. But in terms of missing my physical peak, I wish I had been able to go between the 2 a little bit more.
Coming back and forth. Yeah.
And then also it means that now I would have a 7C to go out and do if I wanted
Yeah,
an easier day,
yeah.
or I've been injured, or I'm knackered, or I would have
Yeah.
that. Whereas I don't. It's
Don't
not
really
like I
have it
don't have
locally.
those, but I don't have that many.
Yeah.
And the ones I do have aren't very good.
Great, because you've done the
So,
good ones.
Yeah.
So I guess if you were advocating to, Dave from 15 years ago, you'd say try and flip back and forth between those 2 approaches a bit more.
I think I would have, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to do it because mentally I wasn't strong enough.
Right.
So I would have had
Yeah.
to. I'd have had to address the mental aspect in order to then be able to do that.
To take that approach.
Which I either didn't do well enough back then, or I wasn't mature enough to be able to do it. I'm not even 100% sure which one it was.
Yeah.
So, but I think ideally the best thing is to start climbing as young as possible, do as much movement as you can, and as much mileage as you can, and then at some point from your mid-late teens to your mid to late 20s to embrace pushing your body as hard as you can, climb the hardest stuff you can, and then potentially as you start to get into your kind of early 30s, late 30s, 40s, whatever, you can do a bit more of a mixed approach. You can still push, like, you know, I know there are lots of people like at my age who are climbing the hardest they've ever climbed, and I'm definitely climbing the hardest or equal to the hardest I've ever climbed at certain times.
Yeah.
So it's not that you suddenly, especially with being a male, it's not that you suddenly lose it. Obviously, for a woman, you have to eventually, if you do have children, you have to think about that, and eventually you have to think about menopause. But with men, you don't have to think about those things as much. You know, like I still climb with Ben at the schoolroom and stuff a bit. He doesn't climb outdoors that much from a performance perspective anymore, but like he's still incredible, and he's 60 next year. Yeah. You climb with him on the board, and it's just ridiculous.
Still doing 7Cs.
Yeah, like, easily. And I know he was world class. Obviously, he wasn't the same level as me in his era. He was incredible, but it's. I think women have a longer life in climbing than they think as well, but men definitely have a much longer life. We have it better than... yeah, I mean, it's just a longer life. You learn a lot and stuff, and you can climb pretty hard, I think. But I'm interested to see, actually, when I notice a decline. That would be really interesting, because I don't...
Do you notice anything in terms of... I guess you notice something in terms of recovery, or in terms of...
I don't notice recovery, but I don't do as much as I used to because I don't have the time.
Right.
So if I tried to do what I used to do, maybe I would notice it. Yeah. But because I can't do that, I don't notice that. So I climb less than I used to, but that's just because I can't climb any...
Yeah, you haven't got the time to climb more.
I haven't got the time to climb more.
It's like on trips and stuff then, when you used to go, you know, because I know some years, you know, you'd go maybe somewhere for 2 weeks, you come back a couple of months, go somewhere again, come back, go. How were you structuring, how were you balancing any training in between those sort of things? Was it structured, or was it go on a trip, come back, see where you feel like you need tuning up or topping up, and then, you know, prep for the next trip? Or
yeah, I would say actually it wasn't. Mina and I didn't actually go on as many short trips as in that period of time.
Right.
We would often go. We'd maybe do a slightly longer winter trip, which would be to the States, somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks, and then quite often we went away in the summer to Rocklands, which I think we went for somewhere between 4 and 7 weeks mostly. No. And interestingly, in that period of time, I didn't go to Switzerland or Font very much.
Yeah.
But we travelled further. Training-wise, it was kind of structured and not structured at the same time. I was always doing some form of training. My climbing sessions wouldn't be that structured. I would always be doing some form of fingerboarding, some form of conditioning. But it wasn't really... Because I didn't really feel like I needed to be better for anything I needed to do. Nothing needed to be that specific.
There was no incentive to sit there for 4 months or 5 months or 6 months and like go up a level.
No, I basically knew that if I climbed and did some training, I'd probably be good enough to do most of the things I wanted to do. I mean, in 2012, was it 12 or 11? I don't know. When we were away for 3 months in the van, I tried Black Lung and didn't do it, but I could climb to the last move like most times. The last move is very bunched if you're taller, and I wasn't strong enough to overcome being bunched.
Right.
And then, and other than that, like, so I guess if I'd wanted to, I then went back to Joe's in 2014 and in 2019. So if I'd wanted Black Lung enough, I could have trained specifically for it. But I guess I didn't want it enough to train specifically for it. And so, yeah, I basically never really felt like I needed to train specifically because I wasn't pushing myself to my max.
It's interesting because I guess in that way, do you feel like you've had more, you know, you've sort of, I guess like you said, it was partially ego that you didn't want to try stuff that was harder through not wanting to fail or not wanting to not do stuff. But you think in a way that set you up for, you know, experiences to go and actually do stuff to actually get things done and come away from climbing trips with boulders done and sort of positive experiences rather than going on trips and maybe not necessarily doing things.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely did. I love all the trips. I don't know if I'd necessarily change what I did. I think I would probably, but we still had a great time. If we like this like thing of collecting boulder problems or collecting routes, I've got a great collection. Whether that's relevant or not.
I love that.
Yeah,
well,
I know.
This is an ethical kind, not ethical, maybe like a, you know, we talk about motivations in climbing. Is this collecting sort of mindset? Is it a sort of healthy outlook or way to interact with climbing? I'm definitely the same as you. I love that, and for me it is about I do a classic boulder and it like you add it to your collection and you look at, you know, I guess you might look in 10 years 15 years time at your collection, the list of boulders you've done, and say, okay, I'm really happy with the things that I managed to do. And I guess you can sit here now and say, mega happy.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean whether it's good or bad, I don't think it really matters. It's just what it is. And if you've done it like me, then I can't do anything to change it. And it's nice to have done those things, and to have had some like, it sounds like there wasn't very much learning, you know, like I just turned up and I would do these boulders, and that wasn't the case. I would learn from these boulders. And there are lots of good memories from them, so that's great. And I guess I just could have learned more if I'd pushed myself more. Actually, probably in 2015 was probably the first time I tried to push myself, and that was, you know, I booked to go to South Africa on my own for 5 weeks to do King of Limbs.
Yeah, I remember that was when you did it, wasn't it?
Yeah, I tried it very briefly, one session in 2013, and just wasn't good enough. And that was like, I'd done Sky like the day before, I did a few other things, but I just wasn't good enough.
In what area weren't you good enough?
I wasn't strong enough.
Shoulders, fingers?
I guess shoulders and fingers. I mean, that's all that boulder is really. But I just wasn't good enough. Mickey did it in 2011, which was my first trip we went to South Africa together in a big group, and he did it that trip. Is, isn't it? Yeah, and I'd always it's not the coolest line, but for me, the holds, how bullet hard they are, that rock quality in that thing.
You'd think they'd come off.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. The movement is what I really love. I love shouldery climbing. So it really stuck in my mind that I wanted to do that. And I guess, I don't even know why I decided to do it, but I booked that trip and I did train.
You'd set a replica for that?
I set a bad replica on the 35-degree board at the works, the circuit board. Yeah. That I never really tried. Right. Yeah. I did lots of shoulder stuff. I did lots of TRX. TRX actually was the biggest thing I did during that period for it. And I can't really remember the climbing I did, or even the fingerboarding I did around that period. But that was definitely the first time. You know, I did definitely do some specific training. I went there on my own to do that boulder problem.
And what was the approach like when you got there? Were you just?
It was kind of monk life at first, but then the day I did it, so I think I got there, and in the first week I maybe had 3 sessions on it. I did all the moves maybe in 2 sessions. I don't think I did them all in one. So I did all the moves in 2 sessions, and then it's not very long, is it? So you start trying to do some little links. Had a couple of sessions where maybe I started to do some links and felt like I could do it, and then and in that period of time I was on my own in a caravan at Alpha, so I could be quite eat what I wanted to eat, do what I wanted to do, and then on rest day I'd basically climb and then rest, and I'd hung out with, that's when I met Jimmy, and he was out with Taylor and Rami, and I hung out with those guys. I'd just go and support them and hang out, and we did a lot of stuff together.
So you were only trying King of Limbs. You didn't even get there and do
I didn't do
any sort of other.
No, I probably did do a bit of climbing in the first week on something else, but not. I don't remember doing anything else. I literally remember going to King of Limbs and trying it, and then I think I'd had a session on it, and felt good, and then the weather looked rubbish for a few days, so we went to De Kelder on that Monday night, because you got 2-for-1 burgers. I don't know if you still get that, but you used to get 2-for-1 burgers on Monday night. So I went with Jimmy and Daniel and some others, and I got 2-for-1 for myself, so I had 2 big burgers, and we drank some beers, and then they got these passion fruit shots. I can't remember what they're called.
Shit.
I can't remember what they're called. They've got a name anyway.
Yeah.
This passion fruit. Those guys love drinking. They can drink and climb hard. I cannot. Anyway, we did shots and everything. And then the next day, I don't know why, but I think the weather actually then looked okay on that day, but then it was going to rain for like 3 or 4 days.
So you just had to go.
So I went to King of Limbs on that Tuesday, and I did it after being... I wasn't wasted, but, I'd had
You'd
shots
had a few, like,
and
and
quite
2
a few
burgers.
ounces of beef mince the night before.
Wow.
And I ended up doing it that day.
Random.
And came back and had a chocolate milkshake with Amarillo in it at Traveller's Rest.
Which, is that what they call the living large now?
I think that's what they call the living large, because
yeah.
Jimmy did live in large that trip as well.
Yeah.
We were going up there at like 6 a.m. to spot him, so he could have a whole entire 3 goes before 9 o'clock.
And he did it on his last day, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, I'd gone actually. I was in Cape Town by the time he did it.
Mm.
I went to Cape Town for about 10 days at the end of that trip.
On the subject then of Jimmy, and I know it's not just Jimmy, like Niky is another example, and obviously you've climbed with like Aidan and Will as well. Some of the best climbers in the world of like right now and of the last kind of 15 years. What is there things that you've noticed, any like overlapping themes or any things that you've learned maybe from climbing with those guys? Like,
yeah,
I know they're all quite different people, and
yeah, they are all very different characters. Jimmy is interesting because he does still get angry or frustrated with himself. But I remember chatting to him, and his mantra, and it probably still is the same, was literally to go out, try hard, and have fun. And he'd still like fall off a boulder and be like, "Urgh!" Much more so than Niky, who's a much more passive character and much more doesn't show it as much. Yeah. So Jimmy would still do that, but literally it was like if he had gone out, tried hard, and had fun, he'd had a successful day, whether he'd done something or not. And that, I think, was probably the very first seeds of me changing. I was in South Africa. I met Jimmy that trip. Well, actually, I'd met him in Waco briefly, but anyway. And then we did 2 long font trips together.
16 and 17, was
maybe
it?
15, 16, or maybe 16, 17.
Yeah.
We did 2 long font trips together. So I climbed a lot with him, and he was, he definitely rubbed off on me, and that like, okay, I need to maybe start changing this mindset. So I would say that's kind of his mantra, just like have fun, try hard. And then I've climbed a lot with Niky since then. I've been to Italy, and we went to the States together. I don't necessarily know whether Nicky's just very different to me. He's very chilled. He's very passionate about climbing, so that probably has rubbed off on me. But yeah, he just goes about it in a different way than I think I would. Although we're very analytical. Well,
yeah, he's very
analytical. We're both very analytical about our climbing. He's way less. He doesn't make tick lists for trips.
He seems a bit more. Would be the word, like.
I feel like he's a little bit more
intuitive.
holistic, a little bit more, intuitive, a little bit more natural, a little bit more... I don't really know. He's a really hard character to describe. I've spent a lot of time with him. I still couldn't describe him. But I enjoy spending time with him. And then, Mina's the person who's made the most impact on my climbing from a mental perspective, because she's a very different character to me. She's probably similar to Jimmy in a way. She wouldn't have a thing, but if she went out, tried hard and had fun, that's a win for her. Like, she can try harder than anyone I know, and it doesn't matter. She is bothered about doing things. We're all bothered about doing things, but for her it's much more. She loves working things out. She loves the puzzle. She almost starts to become disappointed when it's link time, because she just loves the puzzling. And then, as I said, she can try really hard. So she's rubbed off on me the most. She also hates the way I used to get angry and frustrated, it didn't.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
That pissed me off as well.
Yeah, like she really didn't like that, and I kind of knew that, and it's just taken me a long time to get to a point where I could deal with that. So, yeah.
Do you think the sort of her ability to really try hard, do you think that's something she's cultivated, or do you think it's something that some people have more naturally to begin with, and it's like their little skill, and they're able to improve it and try harder and harder and harder? Or?
Yeah, I think you have maybe there's a natural element, and then you can improve it. And I think if you don't have it, some things, if you have them naturally, I think you can never catch however much you train. Whereas try hard, I think you can train it to be as good as people who have it a bit more naturally.
What do you think a good way to really train hard is, or
try really hard?
Yeah, it seems the obvious.
It's an obvious thing
to say, isn't it?
But yeah, it's true.
What do you think limits people from doing it then? Just
there's loads of things. I think sometimes some people, might feel silly doing it, feel silly making a noise when they climb. Especially if it's indoors on a wall rather than outdoors on their project. But actually the thing you need to do with trying hard is you need to practice it regularly. It's the same with anything. If you don't practice it, why should you suddenly be able to do it on your project?
Yeah.
So you need to try hard on the board or on your climb indoors or your fingerboarding or your pull-ups or whatever, because then that means you practice for trying hard when you're outside. So I think, I don't know if Mina has it naturally or not naturally, but she's always been able to try hard. And she's the same. She tries hard, whatever. She'll make the same noises as she does on the board as she does on the hardest boulder problem she's ever done. I think that's a really important thing.
It's a tough skill, like you said, isn't it? Because a lot of people won't feel confident to do that indoors, like you said, in the middle of a gym, busy. Imagine like depot on like a busy Tuesday night.
Sounds grim.
Yeah, it does. It does. And then you've got that person the other side of the gym who's screaming. I mean, that person's maybe feeling self-conscious, or some people would feel self-conscious to do that. But obviously, the person who is doing it doesn't give a shit, do they? So, good. I guess good. Like they're able to do what you're saying and practice it in that environment. And yeah, I guess that's probably something that people struggle with a lot, isn't it? Is practicing indoors or in training what you actually end up having to do outside.
Yeah, I think the other thing, people are worried about getting injured, which doesn't make any sense at all.
Right. Because
again, if you get, you're as much likely to get
injured as in like falling off stuff and hurting.
No, I think injured as in pulleys.
Oh, really?
I think they're worried about training too hard that they might get injured, but you're happy to go outside and get injured.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense at all, because if you don't
we tend to do a lot weirder shit outside than we do inside.
Yeah, and also if you don't train to the intensity that you're going to try outside, you're way more likely to get injured. You need to train hard. You're not necessarily going to try max intensity every single session, but you need to be trying at max intensity, and your body gets used to that, and then you can apply that outside. So, but I think people are genuinely injured, that worried about it. Like people are like, I don't full crimp indoors, but I do it outside. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
From any perspective.
Yeah.
So it's I think that being self-conscious about trying hard and the being worried about getting injured, maybe I'm sure there's other things as well, but
what do you kind of see? Do you see any like common themes or traits with people you work with in terms of things like that, maybe mistakes like that they might make outside? Or I guess it's hard because maybe although you like you work remotely with people but you do have in-person sessions, I would imagine you have less in-person sessions that are outside than inside, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I hardly ever do outside sessions. It's not really necessarily a reason for it. I just don't really. Do
you think there's some benefit in that?
Probably. The only thing for me is that outside climbing is kind of my own thing, and everything else I feel. Everything else is a very close mesh between me working and my climbing. Like I might go climbing with clients of mine, and like which is fun, and I hope that we can be friends. But not hope we can be friends. I hope we can. We're going out to go climbing as friends, not as coach client. But when they're climbing, I'm constantly watching them and thinking how that could, how could I make them stronger or better in certain things, and therefore it detracts slightly from your own experience. So I think that's why I don't do it outside as much. Also, it's it just takes up more time. It's a bit more difficult. Having said that, I guess like clients will send me videos of them climbing outside, and I'll give them feedback. Some clients will literally send me videos when they're there trying the boulder, and I'll give them feedback to put into place straight away, and then they'll feed back from that, and so it's kind of almost like a real time me being there. So I do think that is really useful, but I also think you can see movement patterns indoors. Yeah, there are more subtleties outside and things, but you can see someone's general movement patterns when they move indoors, and see where you need to work on and what would help them for just climbing in general, or if there's a specific thing they want to do.
Do you think there's like elements of tactics or psychology that people, or like this approach like we've spoken about, is people are missing, and that you see as like a common theme? Or
I think most people miss some form of tactics, and everyone just thinks about, you have to think of top level performance, whether that's 7A for you or 9A. Like, you have to think about your top level performance as a holistic approach. It's not that you've done your training, your physical training, and therefore you will climb your hardest ever thing. There's everything to it, but I think people, I guess if you're just not strong enough or just not good enough technically, you probably can't try it. So it's a huge part of it. Obviously, physical, technical is a huge part of it, but there's a lot of other things that go into your tactical, like into those things. Lots of 1% that mean you can do that boulder problem or route a little bit quicker, or actually allow you to do it rather than not do it. And they're the things that I think people just don't think about and aren't necessarily willing to put in the time and effort to trial, because that's it. You need to trial what chalk works best on your project that you're trying, and how do you
like you were saying earlier on about cleaning a hold in between goes, and then using 2 different types of chalk.
So I tried a boulder when I've been in Wales this week on a family holiday, and I've been able to climb a little bit, and I identified a boulder that I thought would be fun to go and try, and basically has a really bad left hand on, which is very it's like a slopey edge, but it's very slick rock, and I think if it was like 10 degrees colder, I would have just done it, and I wouldn't even need to think about all the minutiae of that move. But because of the conditions for me personally, being able to use this hold, having done moves from the bottom, I had to think of all the minutiae, because I wasn't strong enough to just overcome it. So I started off by trying different chalks and see if that would work, and nothing felt like it was working. And then actually I basically decided to wash the hold, because it doesn't look like it had been washed for a long time. It's very chalky and caked. So I washed the hold, and then kind of let it dry, helped it dry a little bit, and then I used like a chalk that's a little bit better when it's low humidity, so it gives you a bit of dampness in the chalk. And then I found it didn't suddenly become easy. I had to try hard still, but the hold felt holdable, and it felt like I could do moves into it and still be able to hold it. And so actually I think I ended up washing the hold after every go. I think I had three attempts, so I guess I watched it 3 times. And maybe it
worked.
Maybe it wasn't just that, but I think it definitely helped in this scenario on this day to do that boulder problem.
So on that, in that situation, it might have been a couple of percent, but it might have been just enough to get you over the line.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just thinking about the things. It's having all those. ideas in your head that when you get to something, okay, what can I do to enable my chances? Do I have 3 different chalks in my bag? Do I have a fan to cool my
3
skin?
pairs of shoes.
Do I have some different shoes? Do I have a knee pad?
Yeah.
Do I have some water if the hold is, if the rock type works for washing it? And like, do I have stuff for that? And also the key is to have tried those things, because if you've never tried them, you won't think to try them, and you also won't know when it might work and when there's just no point in trying it. And that's those things that I think are really important for people, is basically expanding your knowledge.
So you don't know what you don't know kind of stuff. Whereas if you're aware of some of those things, that they exist, that they're things, suddenly you can start to mess about with them and see if they move the needle, I guess, isn't it?
And sometimes they won't make any difference at all.
Yeah.
But sometimes they do make a difference. And,
I guess for me, it's like, I think my advice to people is always, the sooner you start experimenting with those things, different pairs of shoes, different chalks, you know, these days different knee pads, the sooner you can kind of find what might work for you but then, like you said, it's not always, we were talking about it earlier, it might be that combination of chalk and brushing that hold and cleaning it worked on that day, but on a different day with different skin or a different temperature or different humidity, the same combination of things doesn't work. So you're almost, it's constant like trial and error, isn't it? It's not just, it works, this chalk works, perfect. It's like, it might work on that day, but it's not going to work on another day. So I guess a lot of the time it comes down to that constant, plenty of other people have said it, curiosity, isn't it? Of just being curious about, I wonder what little route there is here to an extra percent, or to, finding the path to doing this thing that doesn't just revolve around trying harder, even though trying harder is pretty
well. No, I think the trying harder thing is, I guess it doesn't just revolve around being
physical,
stronger,
mentally trying harder.
I'll go home and I'll train for 3 weeks and I'll come back and do this boulder problem. But what can you do right now to enable you to do it? And I think that's the important thing. And like you say, it doesn't, even if me and you had been there on that same day, if we were doing absolutely exactly the same thing, wearing the same shoes, the same moves, we were exactly the same strength, which obviously we're not, like, it doesn't mean that washing the hold would work for me and it would work for you. It might still not.
Yeah, it might ruin my session.
Yeah, exactly. So. But it's all right, because I did it.
As long as you did
it. So yeah, I think it's just trial and error, and that's something that, I mean, it's hard to do, I think, as well, that, because they're not obvious things. It's obvious that if you struggle on a 2-finger pocket, you go away and you do some hangs on a 2-finger pocket, and you probably get better on 2-finger pockets. It's not obvious to wash a hold. I mean, that hold's never been washed in its life, and I think quite a few people have done that boulder problem.
Quite a few.
That, and I washed it when I finished, because hopefully the next person who goes will find it slightly better.
Yeah.
The washing thing,
the washing thing is tricky now, isn't it? Because I've seen some examples of people washing stuff like whole boulders when they leave, and then 2 hours later some other poor bastard turns up and he's like, oh, this boulder's piss wet.
Well, it depends, and that's again where washing holds is interesting, because I washed that hold when I left. If someone turned up 20 minutes later, that hold would have been dry.
Yeah,
because the humidity on the day was right, and the rock type. I remember going to June in 2020. It was off. It was just, we had to leave Font actually because lockdown was called. Right. But we were in Font in 2020, and it was really hot, and I decided to go and try June. And as I was walking up to June, Maxime Barou, who's like I wouldn't say maybe he's not a blessard, but he's one of the new school blessards. He's really good. He was walking down and he was like,
really
I'm sorry, I've just washed the holds. I was like, don't worry about it. It's a good day. It'll dry. And the start holds on June are like really bullet hard undercuts. And like, even in the time he said he'd wash them, by the time I got there, they were basically dry. Wow. And like, I warmed up a bit. I put the fan on in the area. I wasn't like, I was just like having some air. And within an hour, those holds had dried, and they were totally good to pull on. And I did June that day. So it just depends how fast. Yeah, it's not. And again, like, there's a question, isn't there? Like, it's not ideal that if you turn up and someone's washed some holds, but it might annoy you that day, but overall that person is probably prolonging that boulder, making that boulder better conditions. So yes, it would be annoying on the day, but overall I think they're doing good. And that's like, you know, for me this comes from when I went to Castle Hill. I mean, I had wash holds before I went to Castle Hill and Flock Hill, but they do it all the time. You know, you finish on a boulder problem and you wash the holds. Now hopefully no one's going to climb it that day, like, but if you do a boulder problem, you wash the holds, and it's how they preserve the rock there, because the limestone it gets polished. They don't want that. They want it to be good for future generations and for the next person and stuff. So they wash the holds loads. And you know, if you turn up and there's some wet holds, you just like, okay, well, I'll just go and try something else today. And that's the way it is. Like, there's enough other things to go at that you can, or the chances are there it's low humidity all the bloody time, so it dries in 20 minutes
anyway.
So it's not,
in general, it's like a net positive, isn't it, really?
And for me that's important. More people should educate themselves how to wash holds, when to wash holds, what rock type to wash holds on, and therefore more people should wash holds, but only in an educated way. And then that would be a positive for
climbing areas everywhere, really.
I mean, I wash holds on Peak Lime. Like, I'll get to holds and they're covered in rubber, and I wash them and there's no rubber on them. I'm like, well, you've got a bit of grip on that hold now. And then I'll come back a week later and that hold's covered in rubber again. So I wash it again. But it's not very hard to wash limestone. It dries really quickly. You can't do that much damage. Like, just wash it and it'll make it much better for much longer.
Yeah, makes sense.
Where
do you think that sort of education is going to come from, though?
It's really hard because there are so many people out there who are ready to jump on people for doing the wrong thing and washing the wrong rock. And so that education, I feel like it can only almost come from an apprenticeship, because if I put something up on my Instagram about me washing a hold, if then everyone goes and washes holds,
someone takes it out of context and
they use the wrong brush, they brush a bit too hard, they do it on the wrong kind of rock. It's not even the wrong kind of rock, because actually I think you can wash all kinds of rock mostly, but even the wrong kind of, you know, within a gritstone, for example, you've got bullet hard gritstone and you've got very scrittly gritstone. You're probably not going to wash scrittly gritstone because there's no point. But bullet hard, really good gritstone, if you can wash it, and it's good for the rock. That's why, because it rains a lot in the UK, like, the gritstone's wet all the time. And you use a brush and you don't brush too hard, it's great. So it's education around it. Apprenticeship is the most obvious way. I think blanket education is hard because it can be taken wrongly, and then people are going to jump on those people, and that's kind of then not fair. So
you'd be sticking
really
your neck out to sort of deliver some sort of information on that. And
it's interesting. Ethics and stuff in climbing are a really interesting thing. I remember I was chatting to a friend about it the other day. I remember in 2013, 14, there was a video of the Vastavik meet, and
with Carlo the blowtorch.
Carlo and the blowtorch. Now, Cam shouldn't have put that footage in, because it set Carlo up to get loads of flack for it. He just shouldn't have put the footage in. But actually, whether it's right or wrong, in Vastavik, people use blowtorches. I don't know if they do anymore, but at that point in time, people used blowtorches. And I'm not a scientist, so I don't know whether that's right or wrong. It's bullet hard rock mostly. It's not like it's blowtorching sandstone or friable rock. It's bullet hard, most of it. So,
and that's something that's they do that quite a bit in America as well, don't they? In some areas of like Colorado or whatever, I've seen.
Yeah, maybe again it's a similar style bullet hard rock, so maybe they do. But like, he shouldn't have put that in there. But actually, Carlo was only doing what the locals do, and therefore he'd been educated by locals and he was doing what they did. So actually, what he was doing, was that right? I guess it was right in terms of the locals did it. Is it right for the rock? I don't know, as I said, because I'm not a geologist.
But just what it looks like, isn't it?
But suddenly it looks terrible. And if you go out and suddenly start blowtorching everything, then that's not going to work. So it's a really hard...
Everything's so contextual and so situational, isn't it? It can't just be blanket.
Yeah.
Oh, we do this because of this, or we do that because of that, or I think there's also this sort of thing of when you're developing boulders, how much cleaning do you do?
Yeah.
And I think the level of cleaning that gets done on developed sport climbs versus developed trad climbs versus developed boulders is, I think, a very different thing. I would argue sport climbing, I guess, from what I've seen, maybe more so locally, as I haven't travelled really to sport climb, but I would say there's much more aggressive cleaning gets done sport climbing than gets done bouldering. But still,
Yeah, I guess what you have to hope there is mostly people who are going out and doing first ascents are well educated, have been climbing a long time, are reasonably well educated in ethical standpoint in their local areas, and therefore probably what they do isn't a million miles away from good. And even if they do something slightly wrong, there'll be a reason why they've done it, and it'll be for a greater good. Whether it's right or wrong, it's really hard.
Yeah,
there's never going to be an answer.
No, it's tricky.
I think what for me is, like, I feel obviously there are certain things that there are certain things, for example, if I was washing a hold at a limestone crag and someone turned up who'd never seen anything before, I wouldn't feel guilty about washing that hold. I wouldn't feel guilty that person had seen me. I'm doing good. Now, therefore, if that person then comes up and says, "Oh, what are you doing?" I can hopefully give them a bit of information. I tell them what I'm doing and tell them why I'm doing it, when you might do it. And then they might come and do it maybe only at that crag, but then they've learnt a little bit.
I guess that sort of apprenticeship thing still exists, doesn't it? But I guess now, just because of the sheer number of people coming into climbing, it's less likely that someone has a more traditional apprenticeship in getting into outdoor climbing. It's more likely, you have a group of mates start climbing inside, and then they say, "Oh, well, there's a local area climbing outside. Should we just go and buy a guidebook and then go to these areas?" So maybe they don't interact with rock initially through someone who is already a rock climber. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that stuff still definitely will happen, but for me, it's also just a personal thing. Like, there are really established rock climbers who I know who just leave their tape everywhere, or leave their cigarette butts, or there's a guy in Waco who leaves his pistachio shells everywhere. You go to a boulder problem, you're like, "There's pistachio shells here." He's been here.
I'm hoping to find some of those.
And it's like, and it doesn't matter. I'm not. It's about nitpicking and things, and guess. But just because you've climbed for loads of years actually doesn't mean you have good habits, and just because you've not climbed for very long doesn't mean you
bad ones.
Yeah, and I think all of us can do better as well. I mean,
of course,
I'm reasonably good at picking up litter, but when I go for a walk, if I'm walking into a crag, I go and I'll pick up some litter on my way. But how many people do that? I don't think that happens very often and stuff. And again, I'm not calling anyone out, but every time you went out climbing, you picked up a few bits of litter. That's a little bit better for the world. And every single person who goes out climbing can do that, because there's always litter around the place. So it's not necessarily just to do with that you need an apprenticeship and things. I think it's just about being a better human being a little bit as well.
Yeah, again, I think it's just stuff that people don't realise, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But they should realise, if you see a can sitting on some grass, we're in Llanberis Pass.
It's pretty obvious.
Cans aren't a natural thing here.
No.
So pick it up, and it's a very easy thing to do. But I think it's also good to talk about these things, and it's good to people only get called out, and things only get spread on the internet about, and rumours and things. That only happens because we don't talk about these things, and it's good to talk about things, even if they're not 100% right. At least it's good to talk about it, and then people can learn and things like that. So
yeah, it makes sense. One more thing I wanted to ask you was, in terms of coaching, you've worked with some of the kind of best climbers in the UK, and I was curious if you'd seen an effect from working with the people that you work with on your own climbing, either in a positive, well, hopefully a positive way, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you more open-minded. I guess you see strengths and weaknesses of people, and you're like, and then you can maybe identify them within yourself, and be like, okay, I'd like to be a little bit more flexible. And I've climbed with throughout climbing, I've climbed with Ned and Billy both a lot, and they're both amazing at heel hooks. Now, I'm never going to be as good as either of them at heel hooks, but they both made me want to be better at heel hooks. So, you know, I would try, especially when I've like climbed with Billy on like the splat at the school, you know, he would do a move off a heel, I might not use that heel, so then I try and do that move off the heel. So there's things like that. I've got a friend who I always used to go to Font with, Andy Jennings. He was amazing on arêtes, so I always tried to climb arêtes with him, and I would always try and do arêtes the same way as him, even if I'd done them a different way because I'm taller and stronger. He would climb them better than me, so I always wanted to do them his way. So that kind of thing. I think a few things that I've learned from clients, which is really good, is trying not to push what you think is right onto someone. And I'm definitely been guilty. I probably am still guilty of that at times, but I definitely have been guilty at that at times with people. And I think I kind of learned that from Sam Pryor, actually. Sam he's like the opposite of me. He has no desire to have done every single cool 7C in the world, or 8A even, you know, like Sam wants to go out and try what he likes and push himself. And, you know, I always, when I did coach him, I always used to say, oh, what about doing this? What about doing that? And I felt like I probably tried to push things on him of what I thought he should do. You know, I think if you do this, you'll become a better climber. But if he has no interest in doing that, which I mean, I think is weird. I think he should have interest in doing that. But if he doesn't have any interest in doing it, I shouldn't push my views onto him. And he helped me learn that. And I try not to do it as much. I definitely probably still catch myself now and then doing it.
Because it's tricky, isn't it? When you sort of see an approach that maybe somebody's taken and you think, well, you could be more well-rounded, or you could have more success in the future on something that you really want to do by doing this thing right now that you maybe don't want to do. But if that person doesn't want to do it, then, which maybe was the situation Sam was in, he's like, look, I don't really want to go and do this, this, and this. I want to just go and do that I enjoy right now. Then it's hard. It's a hard sell, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's what you're doing. Like, I don't ever give anyone anything because I think this is for shits and giggles, you know. I give it because I think it will make them a better climber, it will make them stronger, whatever. But at the end of the day, if they don't want to do it enough, they either won't do it or they'll do it half-heartedly, and therefore is there any point in there? And that's something I've definitely tried to adapt in my training with people, and I try and get them to feedback. I'm like, look, I think this session would help you, but if you really don't want to do it, or you try it and you really don't like it, there's no point it being in there because you won't do it properly, and therefore it won't help you that much. So, and you know, some people are like, no, I'm psyched, I can do it. And some people are like, okay, yeah, actually, I'll give it a go. And then they feedback that they don't like it and there's just no point in them doing it and stuff, and that's fine. And then we look at other things.
But sometimes there's other ways to skin that cat, isn't there? And sometimes, like, certain people like doing certain sessions or certain, you know, work in one way and not necessarily in another. And I guess, you can find other ways, can't you, to sometimes get to the same result. Yeah,
I think, and that's being open-minded enough to, I think that's something I've learned and I've developed and I'm getting better at, but it's like, like you say, there can maybe be another path to this.
It's hard. Do you find sometimes you have the way that you think that it should be done, and it's hard to consider other ways, or for certain things, I guess?
I guess. I think so. I would say I'm trying again to be more open-minded always. And I think that's all you can do as a coach is evolve. Like, if I look back at the first training plans I did for people in, like, whatever, 2010 or 11, I'd be embarrassed probably. by some parts of them. Some parts of them I'd stand by and be like, no, this is fine. But I've evolved and I've changed, and I think that's all you can do, whether that's through experiential, whether that's through education. You have to be okay with saying, actually, what I did 2 years ago with this person in this scenario maybe wasn't the best, and maybe what I do with that person now has changed to this, and that's cool. And I think that's part of everything, isn't it? We have to get things, we have to experiment, we have to get things wrong, and then we have to learn from that and hopefully make things better. So that's definitely something clients have taught me over the years that I try and do.
Be more flexible.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that's one of the hardest things about the job for you?
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, I still think there are times when I think the person should be doing something they really don't want to do, and that's, yeah. But there's no point in them doing it if they're not going to do it well. And that's it's hard. That's actually, like, I mean, I've had that, I guess, with you in the past a little bit. Like, I think you should do different things, and you maybe have tried them a bit, and then you fed back they haven't worked, and so on. And I hope at some points I got it right, and some points I probably didn't get it right. But I think that's much harder with more experienced climbers. People who are not as experienced are happy to kind of
follow the lead,
follow you a little bit more, because they don't have the experience to challenge you. But sometimes that is good, because sometimes not always, but sometimes you don't need to be challenged about certain things. But again, it comes back to, it doesn't matter if you, even if this thing will get you to where you know that person wants to be, if they don't want to do it, it doesn't matter. So
tricky. I guess it's probably easier for you working with people who are more malleable in that way, who will just essentially give themselves to you and say, okay, what you think is best, I'll trust your judgment, I'll go with that. But I guess it's harder for somebody who's been climbing however long, 10, 15 years, to a level for them to that and have had full autonomy over their climbing their entire career or whatever, to then sort of give a huge amount of that away, I guess is trickier. Whereas I guess probably some of the people that you've worked with, like some of the higher level people like you've worked with, like Nathan, Billy, etc., Solly, they've had coaches prior to working with you. So I know for Solly especially, like he was already kind of in that mindset, having worked with somebody previously, of just coach says do it, so I do it, and it's worked the right for him.
It's just different. That's just different personalities, isn't it? Maybe it's an age thing as well.
Maybe.
Solly is very, like, he listens to what I say and he does what I say, basically, and he's very chilled, and that's what he wants, that's what he does, and it's worked for him. But like, there are other people, like Billy is a good example of this. I've worked with Billy on and off. I've had times when I haven't worked with him, but I've worked with him on and off for quite a long time. He knows a lot about training, but he doesn't often say to me, I won't do that. He mostly will just do what I tell him to do. He might question me and ask why am I doing it and stuff, and I think normally I give him an answer and he thinks that's good enough. And I think that's just his personality type, is that he doesn't mind doing those things that he doesn't really like, because he believes that it will make him better, and for him that is worth it. But I think not everyone is that character, that they can just do what they don't like. I remember giving sessions to people and them just being like, no, I don't like that, I'm never going to do that session.
Not doing that.
So before they'd even tried it, I'm not doing that. So for me, that's not how I would be, but that's okay, because that's how they are. And then and for me, that's what the thing I'm talking about, that's the thing I've developed, I feel like, is I'm getting better to listening and knowing how far to push an individual.
It's being able to push a little bit, but not too far, isn't it?
And some, but for some individuals, you can push much further. And for some, you have to know when to stop pushing. And that's something you're always learning, but I've definitely learned.
I think I'll have to learn that quite a bit as well. Just knowing everyone's got a different sort of level of what they'll, like you said, what they'll accept and what they're willing to do. And you can usually tell, I think, pretty early with people how much you can push.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's, I think that is a skill, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, if you could give kind of one piece of advice to people who are out there who either, parent or busy person, how to improve their climbing outside, not just by training, what piece of advice would you give?
One piece.
Yeah, or it could be, you can go for two if you got two.
Well, I mean, number one would be to try hard.
Okay, cool.
Always
That's an
try
easy
hard.
One. Just always try hard.
Always try hard.
Jimmy's mantra: try hard and have fun. Works for Jimmy.
It works. But also, it just is like, if you try hard, you'll get better, and if you have fun,
I think the have fun
you'll
part.
get better.
Yeah, and if the other thing I think that you'll achieve by having fun is you'll want to climb outside again.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry to sort of jump in, but sometimes you'll be able to try hard but not enjoy the experience overall, and then people find they don't want to go back because they didn't have fun. They don't want to go and do it. Oh, I don't really want to go and do that again because it wasn't enjoyable. So I guess if you can combine those two things, you're kind of on a good path, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Yeah. So I mean, that try hard and have fun.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing is just being open-minded and try and be a sponge, I guess. Like, try and learn and talk to people. Even if you think you're the most experienced person in the world, there's always something you can learn and things. And so I think it's good to talk to people and get their opinions and their ideas and things like that. And you might not agree with all of it, but you might take the odd bit and it helps you, and then put that into practice. Like, put things into practice, because if you never practice them, you'll never really know whether they're going to help you in general and things. So I guess try hard, have fun, be a sponge, be open-minded.
Perfect. Good. Words to live by. Sick.
Maybe.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. If I know you'd always got a waiting list for people who want to work with you, but is there a way people can contact you if they want to? No, don't contact him if he's not interested.
No, I guess people tend to contact me through my Instagram. I don't have a
cool
website or anything, so people just send me a message on Instagram, and I try and message back.
Right.
So
perfect.
That would be how.
Great. Nice one.
Nice
Thanks,
one.
Dave.
Thank you. Cheers.
Lovely.